What up, guys? So I'm starting on a video that I've been saying forever I would do. For all of you that I've been telling this to, that I would, I'll do the video. Here it is. It's taken me, what, a year? But the control arm video. I'm going to show you how to make a static pair that don't move and a pair that do move. There's only one difference between the pair that move and the pair that don't move, actually. The pair that I build that don't move, I still build them where they will move at first, until I can set them in place and I glue them in place. I started doing that mainly because I was trying to figure out how to make a set that would move, and then I just kind of lost interest in it. It's a static display model. I didn't really want it to move. They just sat on the shelf, usually in a glass case. I just wasn't really worried about it moving, so I quit the effort to try to make one move. Just a little extra work for nothing from me, but if that's your thing, I'll show you how you can do it, one way at least. Here's a few of the tools I'm going to use. Of course, the Sharpie has to be in everyone's possession. Also, my favorite surgical precision tool. I don't like to call it an X-Acto knife, that just doesn't sound right. It sounds too plain and simple. Just a small pair of pliers. Mine have to be a curved neck. You don't have to have curved neck. A pair of little wire cutters. Using a slide rule. You don't have to have a slide rule, just something to measure with. Ruler would be fine. The donor truck that was found on eBay. Gotten all the paint off. Now I got to get all the glue off. Worry about all that once I get some of these parts made. The frame that I built in another video a while back. Well, actually a few days ago. Had these side pieces added to it now, but still basically the same frame. Of course, I'll be working up here with the A-arms to mount them. And the material I used to build that cross member, I have a piece of that. I have some .80 styrene, which, if I'm not mistaken, it is 2mm, I think. And I have some .60 styrene rod, which is 1/16 inch. I don't remember the millimeter. But that's all I need. Of course, your normal stuff, glue. I hate waiting for stuff, so I use a lot of kicker spray just so it dries faster and I can keep going. But that's basically all you need. Maybe some tape or something to hold things down here and there. I like the blue painter's tape because it comes off real easy and doesn't leave any marks on anything you put it on. This video, I'm starting it on the road, and I will be finishing it at home because I don't have a drill with me. So you guys will see a difference in surfaces probably by the third or fourth part of this video. So let's get started. Okay, so to start with, the first thing you're going to need to know is the width. When you get your wheels set in where you know they need to be, you're going to need a measurement, not between the wheels, but where they're going to actually mount. So if your mounts are actually inside the wheels a little bit, you're going to need to measure between the wheels and then add the additional mount between or underneath the wheels where it would be. See if I can get the center in the camera a little bit where you can see what I'm doing. So I'm using Pegasus wheels here. They're easy to mount. It comes right up to the edge here, so I can actually just mount or measure the amount of the tire on both sides, and that'll tell me how wide I need to be. The only difference here really between the video I'm going to do and the way you're going to mount your tires, as you all know, different models, tires mount different ways. These are easy. All I'm going to need is a little piece of styrene tube or something on bar stock to slide into that hole when I build my spindle, like so. And they're mounted. So I'm going to get a measurement here, and we'll move on to the next step. Okay, the next step, once you know how wide overall your A-arms need to be when you're finished, let's keep it simple and say overall I'm going to want it to be 2 inches wide. So from this point forward, we know from point A of the spindle over here to point B of the spindle over here, as wide as 2 points, 2 inches exactly. That's what we're going for here. From there, we're going to take away the amount of our frame, total width of it from the here to here. Let's call that 1 inch, again, just keeping it simple. So that leaves us with a total of 1 inch that we need to make the A-arms, which means each A-arm would need to be 1/2 of an inch. You won't be able to build it just 1/2 of an inch because you're coming inside. You're going to mount here to the control arm, and underneath it's going to be a little bit longer on this frame. So you'll have to take a measurement from the outside of the frame to the center of this little cross member where you're going to mount it right here, and add that much additional length to each of your A-arms. Okay, so not hard to do, getting the width. Setting it up is a little more difficult. Unfortunately, I'm going to go into a little bit of suspension geometry later on. If you want to make it move, that is. That's why I'm going to do the suspension geometry at the end of the video. For those of you who don't want to make it move, no use in watching it. If you do want to make it move, I'm going to try to go into the simplest terms possible. I'm not going to bore you with or lecture you on mathematical geometry class. We'll go into just angles and why you have to do what you have to do. But for now, we know we need that 1/2 inch plus the amount coming in. Guys, I haven't been able to talk for like 3 weeks. It's like I'm just forgot how to talk. So I need the 1/2 inch plus about 1/16 of an inch to get to the center of that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and cut my bars. Okay, there's my 4 bars cut to the length I need it. Plus, I left quite a bit of additional length on here because they're, of course, going to go in an angle. And when you angle it, they're going to become a little bit shorter. So, in other words, like this, meeting one another. If they were perfectly straight out, parallel to one another, they would be the exact length you measured. But as you bring them in, it, of course, shortens it. So you got to take that into account. Plus, it's time to decide if you want to just do perfectly straight bars going out, or if you want to bend them a little bit to look like an actual tubular A-arm, because that's what I'm building, not a stock A-arm, an aftermarket tubular type. I am going to bend these just to give them a little bit of shape. I showed you how to bend rectangle stock the other day when I was building the frames. Same principle here. I'm just going to use a cigarette lighter, heat it up, takes like 1.5 seconds worth of heat. Actually, I'm going to be using the .06 rod, so it probably won't take a full second, and it'll be plenty hot enough to bend it in any shape you want. All I'm going to do is crook the ends just a little bit, and that's going to be it. So I'm going to do that off camera just because it'll be easier for me, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Alright, there's all 4 bent. If you hear a truck running in the background, it's because the truck beside me is the loudest freaking truck I've ever heard in my life. But anyway, the way I bent them all in the same spot was just laid them all 4 side by side and drew a line across where I wanted to bend them all. That way they were all bent in the same spot. I actually didn't even heat these up. They're just, like I said, 60 thousandths rod. I just done a cold bend since I wasn't cold bending it much. By cold, I mean no heat, of course. I didn't heat the rod up. I just took it and bent it. If you bend a sharp bend, it will break if you do that, but just this little small amount like this, it's fine just to bend. Got them all to about the same shape. And now we have to determine how wide we need the overall A-arm to be when we build the mounts. The way I'm going to do that, this cross member, of course, we need it to be as wide as it, which this is the material I built that out of, so I don't have to take a measurement. I can just use this and make marks beside it. But also, coming off to the side of each where I'm going to mount, I'm going to be using this 80 thousandths rod. It's just a little bit bigger than what I used to build the A-arms. This I'll just be cutting little stubs off of to make it look like bushing tubes where your bushings would be to mount it. And I'll glue my A-arms to that. I'm going to make these a little bit wider on both sides than the arms themselves. That way it appears to be a bushing, because if you look at a real one, it'll be a little wider where the bushings are. So I'm not going to actually cut this rod yet. I'm not going to cut the tips off, rather. I'm going to do something a little different that I'll show you in a little bit when I start to do this. Also, going to have to make the ball joint plates, which I'm using this 40 thousandths sheet styrene for. And I'm going to set all this up here in a second to show you how I'm going to design the ball joint plate. We'll draw it out, cut it out, and get it glued in place. Okay guys, so this is going to be my ball joint plate. All I've done was just drew it out kind of square. You can see the little edge back here, and then these little notches here on the side are about the size of my 60 thousandths rod. 2 little notches on the side. I'm going to cut one of these out, and then I'm going to take it and trace out 3 others just like it. One thing I should mention that I haven't mentioned by now, I've been taking all my measurements from the top of the frame. I'm actually starting with building the lower A-arms, okay, because they are a little bit longer, and that's what's going to set your total width of the suspension. I'm just taking all the measurements from the top is all, because nothing's going to change other than the length of the arms themselves. Okay, so I'm going to cut these out, cut 3 others, excuse me, and then we'll go to start gluing things together, and it'll start to look a little bit like an A-arm. One other thing, I have only 80,000ths rod. You can see the 4 marks there. The 2 marks in the center, this is the material again that I made the crossmember out of. The 2 marks in the center are the width of the crossmember rod. These marks right here on the outside edges of it are where my bars are going to mount, and they are wider, you can see, barely, than the 60,000ths bar. So I'm not going to cut this out yet. This will get cut, but I'm going to build my bar to it. That way I know that everything stays straight, and I can cut it after the A-arm's built, and everything will be straight.